Mr. McCaul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sure Mr. Barton will do a fine job answering questions directed to me. I must say we mentioned how intimidating it is to be sitting in the well here with the chair and ranking member so high up on the dais, and I can only imagine what the criminal defendants in your courtroom, how they must have felt before they went before you. Fortunately, I never had that opportunity. So just let me say thank you for having this hearing and markup on this very important issue, and it's long overdue, to lift the 40-year-old ban on crude oil exports. And I think it's fitting that we should have this discussion in the Foreign Affairs Committee because crude oil exports is a major foreign policy issue. Around the world, our friends and allies are looking for a stable and reliable supply of American energy. And countries like Russia abuse their status as a dominant energy supplier to bully their neighbors in Europe and Central Asia, while supply disruptions from places like Iran and Libya leave the global oil markets vulnerable to price spikes. The geopolitical benefits of American energy exports as a diplomatic tool will both make us stronger economically and provide critical support to our partners around the world. But don't take it from me. Take it from the European Union's trade negotiators who leaked a memo last year acknowledging that the crisis, and this is their quote, unquote, the crisis in Ukraine confirms the delicate situation faced by the EU with regard to energy independence. And then they urged the administration privately to lift, they said, lifting bilateral restrictions on gas and crude oil to increase security and stability through open markets. To lift these restrictions to increase security and stability through open markets. This is a European Union. This is not you or I talking on the Republican side of the aisle. Or take it from Larry Summers, President Obama's former director of the National Economic Council, and President Clinton's former Treasury Secretary, hardly a Republican from Texas. I put that one in my script. Who argues that if we wish to have more power and influence in the world in support of our security interest and in support of our values, and if we wish to have an influence that we pay for with neither blood nor taxes, I do not see a more constructive approach than permitting the export of fossil fuels. Larry Summers, of course, the ranking member knows him well, having represented the Boston area and, of course, Harvard University being there. Some of my colleagues, I yield.
Chairman, that you go there, you've gone there too, so as a Texan.
So some of my colleagues are skeptical. I don't question their intent, but they are skeptical about lifting the ban. They contend that allowing crude oil exports could increase gas prices. They also argue that keeping our crude oil here at home makes us more energy secure. Allow me to address both of these points. First, the Nonpartisan Government Accountability Office found that removing crude oil export restrictions will actually decrease gasoline prices by 1.5 to 1.3 cents per gallon for American consumers. The Energy Information Administration explained this somewhat counterintuitive phenomenon, pointing out that the effect that a relaxation of current limitations on U.S. crude oil exports would have on U.S. gasoline prices would likely depend on its effect on international crude oil prices, rather than its effect on domestic crude oil prices. We already allow for the free trade of gasoline, so there's no reason why crude oil should be treated differently. Keeping the ban in place will, in fact, make us less energy secure, restrict economic growth, and without the option to export to foreign markets, our producers will continue to be forced to sell their crude oil at an artificially discounted rate, which is already causing them, as the chairman mentioned, to cut back production by 50%. This is a real problem in states like mine, where independent small producers are laying off workers. It also holds back growth in states that produce little to no energy at all because of the effect on other industries that support crude oil producers. Moreover, U.S. refiners are not fully optimized to process the explosive growth in domestic production of light sweet crude in states like Texas and North Dakota. Rather, they are configured to refine heavy crude from countries such as Canada and Mexico. Allowing for the free trade of crude oil will make the market more efficient by correcting this producer-refiner mismatch. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, the crude oil export restrictions enacted in the wake of the 1970s Arab oil embargo are no longer justified given today's market conditions. And as the Chairman of Homeland Security, if this has a devastating or detrimental impact on ISIS and Iran, I think that would be a positive thing in our foreign policy and Homeland Security. I urge the subcommittee to repeal the export ban in its entirety, as my bill does. But I think it's critical that Congress create a safety valve that ensures the President has the ability to restrict exports in the case of unforeseen national emergencies. My bill, H.R. 156, the Crude Oil Export Act, which has been referred to this subcommittee, has such a provision. So I want to thank you again for drawing attention to the issue. It's an important issue. I think there will be a healthy debate on this committee that I serve on as well on this issue, and I look forward to the day that they are both marked up and sent to the House floor for a vote. And with that, I yield back.